Do you feel like you took a wrong turn in life? Welcome to Morrow's Motivations, where we talk with people who educate, motivate, and captivate you with inspirational stories. Here's Dontrell.
Well, Casey, thank you for joining me today. How are you doing?
A little tired, but it's great. I'm glad to be here on the podcast.
Well, I am so glad to have you, my friend. Thank you for joining me. I know it's been probably a busy, long day for you and your teaching schedule, and I appreciate you giving me some of your free time off the clock to just share some of your experiences.
Well, definitely glad to do so for my friend Dontrell.
And I just want to give like a little personal shout out. Casey and I have known each other for, I think it's been 9 years now. Yeah.
20. Yeah.
I think it's been about 9 years.
9 years. That's weird.
Right? I had to think about it too for a second. I'm like 9 years. And we met in college at Utah Valley University, and we met in a music class. And I think it's so ironic that we get to talk, these 9 years later in this podcast, because when we first met, you actually helped me a lot to prepare for what I'm doing now in a roundabout way, because you were teaching me vocal lessons, one for the class that we were taking. We were partners in the music class. But if you remember, the second reason was because you were helping me learn voiceover technique.
I do remember that vaguely. 9 years.
I know.
But yeah, I do. Yeah. I actually remember you giving me some examples and rundown. Oh, let's try this. Let's try that. Yeah, I do remember that now.
Yeah. And it was something that I appreciated so much then. I still do to this day. And yeah, I'm excited for you to talk today a little bit about your journey and how literally you found music to be a part of your soul. And I think it's very interesting because you're one of those individuals that from the day I met you, you knew that you had a certain passion for music. And I would like to have you start off just explaining a little bit about yourself, like your background and how you came to be introduced to music for the first time.
Well, it all goes back to my mother, because I come from a family of 5 boys, and my mother was very strong musical background, and my whole family has a strong musical background. I look back even to my pioneer heritage, or my great-great-grandfather. He was one of the conductors of the orchestra at Temple Square. He even made a violin out of the wood from the tabernacle organ. It's back, way back in Utah heritage that my music roots are. But of course, for me personally, it all comes down to where that heritage leads to my mother, who was in piano and in choir in high school, but she loves music so much, she made sure that all of us boys, and I being the middle child, started piano when we were 7. Now, we'd have to have a good 2 years at least. Wow. If we hated it, then we needed to choose something else. But it still needed to be something music. But it was then, starting at 7, I started to love it, and then I loved music so much. When I hit 10, I actually found that particular violin in my grandma's house. So that violin made by my great-great-grandfather. And I just pulled it out and I asked my grandma, I said, what is, where'd this come from? And that just seeing that instrument, and then even watching other violinists play on TV, and just gave me this need and want. Like, I want to learn this thing, and especially learning that heritage that my great-great-grandfather made it. I was so excited. It's so cool. And so that really just started me on my musical journey of being in symphonies and orchestras and playing piano for church or for Christmas parties or for whatever, and recitals and competitions and school, and so it's I just think back to those first 3 years. I started piano when I was 7, violin when I was 10, and just having really, I think, really thinking back, it was that connection to that family heritage, and that I knew music was in my blood that kind of pushed me.
That's awesome, dude. So kudos to your mom. I mean, 5 boys, that's definitely a lot of work in itself. And I'm sure like having you guys having beautiful music played around the house would kind of like like defuse the chaos that 5 boys could muster up. Was that the plan?
I would hope that was the plan. My mother was smart, and that she did have all of us busy learning an instrument, but we also all loved to sing, and so when we would get together and my mom would have us sing for church or sadly later in life as we sing for funerals, it's one that we love to sing and connect. It's something that brings us together, definitely helped us draw closer together as a family.
Oh yes, yes. Music definitely is as a joy, and it's something fun, especially when you can create it. I look back at my early years. I remember my paternal grandmother wanted me to play the piano, and I unfortunately like just never learned. She bought like one of those little, very small, like little keyboard type pianos, and it was nice. I remember it, but I did just what I think most kids do when they see it. I just kind of banged on it a little bit and tried to make whatever little sound would come out of it. But for me, I just never gravitated to it, and unfortunately, I never had any actual piano lessons. I mean, I think that could have made a difference to see if something would have sparked or clicked, but much to her displeasure, I didn't have that same that same success that you connected with it so well. Now, when did you yourself learn that you wanted to do music more than a hobby and look into it more as possibly something to do as a career? What stage of life did that happen with you, and what circumstances led to that?
I look back to high school, and you take your those career placement tests. You put in your likes and interests.
Oh,
and
yes.
Music teacher or professional musician would come up, and I would always, in high school, I'd think, I love music, but music doesn't make money unless I become a pop star. So yeah, it was actually later, because I would, I think about it. It's like I love music. It's so much a part of my life, but I just felt I needed to do something different because I didn't feel it was just a logical choice. Like, go into business because that makes money, being a business major. So right after high school, that's what I went into. My first year, I just put business major. But did I do any business classes? No. So so it was actually while I was on my mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that that it just hit me. That I was thinking about it, because you take 2 years off and then you go back to life. It's like, I don't love anything else. I don't have a passion for anything else besides music. Why would I do anything different? And it's at that point that it dawned on me that I should pursue music education. And the man that inspired me is my high school music teacher, my choir teacher, Jim Wilcock. And just looking back to his love and passion for music, and he just made it fun. He made it look fun. You could see how much he loved it, and so I was like, that would be a fun job, just being able to be that knee deep in music every day and be able to help others enjoy it as much, or hopefully close to as much as you do. So I really put it back to that point on my mission. I made that decision.
Well, nice. I know that, through the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we both found profound blessings and answers that come through exercising faith and really trying to be in tune with, the higher purposes of life and what that means for us individually and collectively, as humans. And so, was there one particular thing that stood out to you on the mission that kind of helped propel your decision, or more or less confirm that decision for yourself in that field that you looked into joining or working in, rather?
Partly it was because of besides the warm feelings of the Holy Ghost, those feelings of confirmation that gives you that when you think of something and make a decision, that you feel like the Holy Ghost says, yeah, that feels right.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also, as being a musician, and then because I was able to bring a violin on my mission as well, and so I was able to play for people investigating the church, members of the church, for apostles and for mission leaders, but playing all those things with my violin just helped me feel the Spirit and helped me just see how it affected others. But especially, when I just stop and even just sing with one of the missionaries I worked with. He actually went to school with me later at UVU and I was with him in choir, so it was fun. But whenever we would sing together and we would just harmonize and just see the tears coming down people's faces, yeah, I always say, yes, I've accomplished something whenever I make someone cry after I sing. But it's times like that just confirmed me, just like the power that music has to uplift others and bring them, whether they feel closer to God or whether they just feel to uplift them and help them be a happier person. It was times like that just helped propel that choice that I made. It's like, this is right. I need to keep doing this and help others feel the joy that I do.
Oh, yes. Yes. And I know for, just hearing you personally sing, and the group that you had during that time at college, I mean, you harmonized all so well, so perfectly in sync with one another, and it was very moving and touching. And so I can only imagine what those individuals felt when you were, singing and going through the beautiful music you would create out there in the mission field. And for the listeners listening, just so they can understand what the mission is, it's a service mission for 2 years or 18 months for our men and women, young men and women between the ages of 18 and 20. And they're called to go, anywhere in the world to do service for the church and to, preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so, even that in itself, it shows a lot of dedication and a lot of focus. What traits from that experience, added to the confirmation that you personally felt and the personal conviction that you discovered for yourself and love for music? What traits from just the focus and the determination helped you to go through and continue focusing on music in a different way than what you originally planned, I guess, being a professional singer?
Well, you could say that some of the traits would be, besides what we talked about with it really being a very focused time of my life, I saw the effect of music on people, but also seeing that effect helped me realize that I can help others do what I can do. I look back and think of one of my last missionary companions that I had. We lived together in one place for, I think it was for 6 weeks. But when I first met him, he could not sing. Well, he could sing, but very wrong notes. He would try so hard. And he was like, okay, I have to work with this missionary, get him to see if he can at least sing with me. So I was happy to see, by the time I was done with him after 6 weeks, that he was able to sing the right notes. He was able to listen, and it's like, okay, I can do this. But just seeing that little bit of effect, just help push that idea again, is that forward. And as I came off my mission and started into school, just realizing that having to push and work hard. Well, I have to think back, because as a missionary, you have so many times of rejection, so many times of hard times, but as you start into a college degree, you definitely have a lot of hard times, especially as you get 18 credits, and homework's piled on, and you have a performance coming up, you have to get this memorized, you have to, so I think of those traits. I think back of a lot of it is persistence, and just being able to push through no matter what, and you'll come out on top. I even think of my students today, because I'm currently teaching, like I'm sure you said in the bio, but currently teaching at a middle school with a bunch of, I guess I've got one 10-year-old, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds. So it's just these young kids that I have to push and push and push and push to get them to do well. And with this concert coming up, I always get so worried that it's not gonna turn out. But as I see them persist and are willing to practice and work and practice and work, that they come out on top, and the parents at the performances are overjoyed and say they did amazing. It's like, I thought they did okay. It's like they haven't. That's the hardest part as a musician. You're never satisfied, because you always want a perfect performance, but you can always push for the best, and so persistence. Yeah, that's when it really comes out on top for me. Is just that constant persistence and work, and you can see that in any field, but especially as a musician, it's the hours of practice, the correct practice, that gets you to where you want to be. Mm-hmm. People always wonder, like, how did you become an amazing musician? How did you sound like Mozart? It's like, it's because I practiced. That's persistence and practice. And yeah, it's what really sticks out to me.
Well, I totally would say that is definitely something I've heard from movie stars that you see on television, sports athletes. All of them say the same thing: persistence, and just having the mindset of not quitting, not giving up, even when things are challenging or difficult. For you, I know, and it's the same kind of theme in a lot of the world of arts. Arts are not always welcomed from the perspective of, career potentials, or except for the exception of your case with parents. Sometimes parents aren't always very enthusiastic or encouraging for their kids to be in the arts. They want them to do something more, financially sound, something that they think will bring a better, collective, dividend later on in their life. But for yourself, and I'm not sure if you ever experienced any discouragement from pursuing that as a career, but if you did, what were some ways that you tuned out those voices of discouragement and kept the focus on what you knew for yourself to be your goal in life with music?
I think back to college, and you're kind of in your own world as far as, each degree has their own school and they have their own focus. And then, so it wasn't until, because I was just so much in the music department, it wasn't until I joined the education department that I kind of, you branch out and you start to see what everyone else is up against. And and they did warn us. I remember some of my professors talking about, it's like, teaching is hard. This is a difficult field. There are some people that student teach. They'll go out, for that one semester after they're done with their degree, basically. That's all they have left, student teaching. And then they say, not for me after they do that. And they just go do something different. I even saw that with one of the ladies that I had choir with for 2-3 years. I saw her go through the program. She went through student teaching, and afterwards I saw her working in the office at the school, in the admin building. I was like, what are you doing here? Why aren't you off being a music teacher? And she's just like, it just wasn't for me. I'm like, okay. And so, those, when I'd see people like that, I was like, is this for me? Can I really do this? And so I kind of put it aside. I just thought, okay, this feels right. It feels what I'm supposed to do. But I really thought back to my music teachers. It wasn't just my high school choir teacher, but it was my private violin teacher, my private piano teachers, my orchestra teacher at school, even the band teacher that I worked with. I was just thinking that they enjoyed what they did, and even like you said, with people sometimes remind us that in the music field, can't earn very much money. It's not very financially sound. Even they can say that about any teacher now, though.
So true.
Teachers need raises, but anyway, I like how one of my teachers, we were at a parent-teacher conference for a student within this past year, and it's, a student that was struggling a little bit, and I just say, it was the science teacher. He says, do you think we're here for the pay? And the student's like, what? It's like, teachers don't get paid very much. We're here because we love what we do, and we want to see you succeed. And that really reminded me that, that's why I chose my field. And that's, even though I have hard days, there's hard weeks, there's hard months, dealing with students or dealing with whatever. But it all comes, for me personally, it all comes down to the concert and the performance and just seeing the smiles on the kids' faces. And even though one kid has been really hard to work with through the year or whatever, then he comes up after and says, thank you. And it's like, oh, wow, I didn't know you appreciated what I did. So it all comes down to times like that I look back and think, all those times I've thought, should I do this? Should I, right? But whenever we have a time to perform and see the fruit of our labors and help others enjoy it as well, that I get buoyed up and I feel like, okay, I can do another year.
No, I totally understand what you're saying. So you do it literally just for the love of music and seeing people succeed in the gifts and talent that they may not have even known they had within themselves. And you're not concerned about whether you're necessarily validated or given any kind of recognition for your labors in doing that. It's just the love of doing it that sustains you. Would that be accurate?
Well, validation's always nice.
Oh, well, yes.
It's always, it's in the education field. If your principal is happy, then you'll know you're in a good spot. So it's you work towards it. I want to make sure others succeed. But I also make sure that I'm happy too, because if I'm not happy with the product, if I'm not happy, what do I need to change? What needs to be better? But I always am happy when I get good feedback from parents or from administrators that what I'm doing is working. It's one that I know personally that music has been such a strong point in my life that it's just helped me succeed. There's tons of studies out there. You can find them online. But just how the music, having music helps focus the brain and helps you become a better student. It helps in many aspects of your life. And just so being able to be a part of that and help students do that is awesome. Mm-hmm. Although at times it is hard, but it is worth it in the end. It's just getting there is hard sometimes.
No, I got you. And just kind of like to clarify, it wasn't necessarily validation. I was saying that you didn't need, but it just like compliments, that,
Yeah.
it's not about the compliments necessarily. That's the most important to you other than seeing the students succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially even with like past couple years, I had students that their parents wouldn't even come to the concert,
Oh,
and just because they were either just because their socioeconomic status, they were working. They couldn't come just because they were constantly working, and so the student was able to come, but just to be able to see him smile and know, like in jazz band, if he got a solo and he played well, and see the smile on his face, he's like, yeah, it was rewarding that way. And seeing, although he knew he didn't have the support that he needed, it was still cool to see the effect it still had on him. Yeah.
no, that's amazing. That's great. And I'm sure, those kids and the parents really appreciate you for everything that you do and, all the dedication that you give to them each and every day.
I try.
And that's all you can do, my brother. That's all you can do. I definitely, again, like I mentioned earlier, I appreciate you giving me some time, after your busy day at work and, of course, time that you have with your own family. So I wanna just leave with one final question, and I think that it really will help resonate with both yourself and others who are listening. How do you, KC McMillan, define success for you?
I've I've defined success based off, really, it's how do I feel? Because do I feel like I accomplished something? Does it feel that that all this work and persistence that we talked about, that we put in, and did I get a good end product? Was it, and am I happy about it? Because again, I think of like a musician. What we do, we perform, and we work towards a concert, and we perform, and so I find success when I get that standing ovation at the end, and the audience loves what I did, or I feel like I'm successful when I get compliments after a concert. If I played a violin solo and someone comes up to me and says, Casey, you did such an awesome job. I was like, oh, thank you. And it took me years to get used to actually getting used to people coming up to me and saying good job, and but it helped me realize that, hey, that's a sign of success. But like I said, when I make someone cry for a good reason, not because it sounded bad, but because it touched them in a certain way,
Right.
I find that as success. So as a musician, it's kind of a two-way street. It's one that I find success when I feel like I sang well or I played well, and then I see it in the faces of the audience and those that I try and share my talent with. Or as a teacher too, I try and share it with them. Although sometimes they may not feel it as well, but it's that success when they do well and they're happy about it, and okay, what I'm doing is making a difference. So it's kind of that twofold as a musician. It's the feeling of success and feeling of accomplishment in yourself, and then seeing it in the audience. Yeah, that's for me.
Well, I have no doubt in my mind that you will continue to not only wow those individuals that you get to work with every day and those students that you get to continue to build up and coach, but I think you're going to do it more to yourself, and you'll really see that your success truly lies within just your passion and love for the art of music. And thank you, on behalf of just myself, like I said, being able to experience, just a part of that underneath your leadership in college was enough to really give me a sense of greater appreciation for music, and even the small talent that I, played in singing in a church choir. And and really being in tune with that for that season. So thank you for that, my friend. I definitely appreciate that in you.
No, thank you.
And thank you again so much to everyone who joined us in our podcast tonight. We appreciate your time, and definitely will bring continuous uplifting motivational episodes. Until we meet again.
Thank you for listening to Morrow's Motivational Podcast. Please join us again next time.